may not be suitable for all audiences.
Dungeon Master! What are you doing here?
Looking for you.
Art 101 with Mr. Burgher.
Scholars, welcome back to another episode of Art 101 with me, Mr. Burgher, a professional artist and master educator, attempting to provide you with the best in our historical content. If you like the content, like, share, subscribe, do all those things. You know what to do.
It's all up to you.
So today I'm here at the Des Moines Arts Festival. They have all kinds of vendors and things going on. They shut off a couple of streets in downtown Des Moines, Iowa. You can walk around. There's student exhibits, high school, elementary age. They got professional artists, a little bit of everything. So we're going to talk to some folks down here and get a different perspective than, just the normal everyday, Art 101 history stuff. This year, in 2023, the Des Moines Art Festival is taking place from June 23rd to June 25th. This is located at the Western Gateway Park in downtown Des Moines. They're blocking off the streets and making way for arts, vendors, and all kinds of cool stuff going on. As a matter of fact, there are 190 artists that are selected from nearly 900 entries of artists trying to get into this thing. So it's big time. For years, I've been going to this festival, but this year I want to talk to some of the vendors, and one of the first people that I ran into that I wanted to have a conversation with was Katie Robleski from Milwaukee, Wisconsin. Although she's an Iowa native, her and her husband Chris work underneath the name the Flash Nites. They use all kinds of photo tricks to light up these abandoned places. It's super cool photography, and it was awesome to be able to speak with her just for a moment. So how did you guys get started with photography and just the concept of what you're doing?
My husband started about 20 years ago, and then we met 15 years ago, so he taught me how to do this, and he just is more of a night owl, so instead of doing like your typical photography during the day, he definitely wanted to do the night thing, so just a little more interesting.
What was the learning curve for you, for him to teach you and to really get on the same page as far as the concept?
Basically, he just we used a strobe flash at the time, a Vivitar strobe, and then you put a colored gel over the top, theater gel. And so he just handed it to me, and he was just like, go in that train over there and just keep pressing the button to light up the whole train. And then he showed me on the back of the camera what it looked like, and I was like, oh, I got this. Perfect. Yeah.
What sort of advice would you give to people that were looking at photography, looking at doing this sort of thing as their full-time passion?
I guess, obviously doing any kind of art full-time is not for the faint of heart. You really have to just make sure that it's tough, because when something that you're passionate about or something that's been your hobby for a while becomes your job, there's a risk that you're going to start think of it as a job, right? So the best, my advice is to just kind of fall in love with it every time you engage with it. Just find something new about it. We travel all around the country, so we get to go to different spots. So it's easy for us because we're always seeing new things and exploring new towns. And so it's really fun to have that be a part of it. So yeah, just find something new every time and, fall a little more in love with it.
If you'd like to get a hold of the Flash Nites, go to their website, theflashnites.com, and check them out.
Hold it right there. Nice one. Oh, what are you doing there?
Beginning in the late 1960s, this Iowa artist, Mike Bose from Bedford, Iowa, began down a path of making ceramic works largely in raku. With your works, what are some of the big themes that really influence you?
Yeah, I'm a farm boy. There's a lot of earthiness in my pots, and a lot of narrative that goes back to my old farm boy days. It's just who you are.
Can't get the Iowa out of you.
You do anything long enough, painting or pottery, you just can't fake it. Who you are is going to come out.
working in southern Iowa, things like that, sometimes it's being a professional artist is something that seems so far away, so unattainable. What advice would you give to a youngster? Are there things that a path that you would choose?
It's helpful, no matter what you're doing, to surround yourself with like-minded people. I mean, I had an interest in it, but then when I got out of the military, I was exposed in the military to other cultures and pottery. And so I went to Northwest Missouri State University there, which is a nice department. And you're surrounded by like-minded students and professors, and it accelerates your interest.
If you'd like to get a hold of Mike Bose, check him out at MikeBoseCeramics.com.
That's right.
As I was walking around, I stumbled across Chris Cumbie, an outsider artist from rural Alabama, whose works are so fun-loving I just had to stop and have a quick conversation with the guy. I look at it, I see a little bit of surrealism, I see a little bit of pop art like Andy Warhol, but a little bit of like a Basquiat type of like street graffiti edge to it. What influences in art history or in art did you see that you...
Honestly, all those guys you just mentioned, just because of everything, it's kind of boring to me in art history and all that. I mean, not to take away from the fact that it was good, it was beautiful, but it wasn't me. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So, but then seeing what those guys were doing, it just seemed more realistic. You know what I'm saying? Like for anybody, and I don't know, it's just more inspiring. Especially like Robert Rauschenberg, especially. I've got a story where he lived in New York City and he would walk the block and would create whatever work with what he found during that walk. And then, say the next week we'd walk 2 blocks, so on and so forth. And I live on the coast, so I kind of started doing that. And I would just use what I would find on the beach. Whatever wood it may be, or tangled up rope, didn't matter. We did a lot of hurricanes, and you never know what you're going to come across. So that's kind of what started like wood carving for me. But then it just kept progressing because you find stuff everywhere. So yeah.
If there was a high school student, a young artist, that you had the opportunity to say, "Listen, here's my number one piece of advice for you," what would that advice be?
It's a tough question. For me personally, in art class and so on and so forth, it's like they're giving you all these rules. You know what I mean? Like you've got to follow this and this, and you've got to do it this way. I don't believe in that. You know what I mean? I think you should just do whatever feels right. Plain and simple. And that's that. You know what I mean? There's going to be somebody somewhere that's going to connect and relate to what you're doing. You just got to find them. But I don't like following the rules in a sense. You know what I mean? Yeah. Just do your own thing. So yeah. I guess that'd be the best thing to say is just do your own thing.
If you want to get a hold of Chris, check him out at chriscumbieart.com.
These guys are geniuses. I could never think of something like soup or a pencil.
An artist and educator, Debra Payne, spent her professional career in the classroom, and after walking out of the classroom some years ago, has spent her time perfecting her skills in painting and drawing. It was a pleasure to have a conversation with her, and here's how that went. How long did it take you to develop the skills to be able to create paintings like these?
Well, I do feel lucky that I was able to touch the brush for 30 years every day as I taught, and I've been retired for 12, so this is the body of work that I've done since then.
Wonderful. And what advice do you give or would you give to prospective painting students that wanted to pursue something like this on a full-time basis?
Learn to draw and paint from observation. Don't use that photograph as a crutch too much. Really hone your skills, learn to sight and measure, learn your proportions, learn all about perspective, learn color theory, it really, I feel, is a strong basis in observational drawing and painting. It was the core of our curriculum at the high school I was at, so it was without exception. That's what we were going to do every day. The students that I've had since then, I just encourage them to do it on their own every day. It really takes a focused, concentrated effort to do it well. It's not something you can kind of drop in and try it, a little bit here and there. But once it's there, once it's in place, those skills, you can go anywhere. You can do anything with it and do it well, I think, in terms of abstraction, simplification, composition, corrections, all sorts of things are open to them.
If you want to get a hold of Debra Payne, check her out at debrapainter.com.
Everyone needs some form of release.
The artworks of Jeribai Andrew-jaja really caught my attention. He is a hyper-realistic artist, and I stopped in to pick his mind on a couple of topics.
Obviously, you've developed your skills. What kind of background and training did you have to do in order to get this great at drawing?
First of all, I'm self-trained, but I've always had the passion, and that passion I noticed was when I draw, I pay attention to details. So this was like 8-9 years old while I kind of understood there's this style of art called hyperrealism for what I like, so I decided to go on Instagram, YouTube, and started seeing some other artists that do that. So they were not really instructional videos, but I just kind of see what kind of pencils, what kind of erasers, what kind of paper. So since I had already started having that skill, so I got those materials and I keep doing trial and error, and I just keep getting better and learning. But one big thing that really helped my growth is I always look for very detailed photographs and try to capture what I see. So I might not get there, of course, but it always adds to my skill and my experience. So that's how I kind of grew up into this level of skill.
If a young person came up to you and said, I want to be as good as you at doing this, what is the number one thing that you would say, this is what you need to do?
Patience. That's the number one thing. Yes, because it's stages, and like I said, every drawing I always had something that was the next challenge for every drawing. It could be, okay, I want to draw a very realistic hair. It could be, I want to draw a very smooth skin. It could be, I want to draw a very wrinkled skin. It could be, I want to draw eyes, but there was always something that was a challenge, and I was always patient. Like I said, I wouldn't get it, but I understand I've increased my skill level. It might not be very evident at that point, but with time, I would see how much I've come. So I was always patient with myself.
Contact him at andrewjajaart.com.
I was one person with a vision,
Yeah.
It wasn't like I was Bob Ross. I didn't get to make little trees and houses and shit.
There are so many great artists at this festival, but I'll be honest, as I'm walking down the road there, I spotted this astronaut monkey, and I had to find the artist. And this is my brief conversation with that artist, Shawn Ray Harris.
What advice would you give to a prospective individual that was looking at pursuing art full-time?
Yeah, I would just say stick with it, and nothing replaces hard practice and long hours.
Yeah.
I mean, there's always a way of doing something with it, don't get discouraged, just kind of persevere. But nothing replaces the hard work.
I would maybe put this in the realm maybe of pop surrealism or something like that.
Sure.
How do you classify, how do you think of your work?
I call it camera illustration. I'm photographing everything, and I'm just taking single pictures, knowing where each image is going to go, and kind of constructing a image around that. So it's still surrealism, and it's all collaged together. But to me, it's just using a camera instead of pencils to illustrate a story.
Yeah. Are there any historical artists or people that have you've looked at or studied or influences? Yeah.
I certainly like people like Annie Leibovitz with photography and the way she does portraiture. Like that is probably like seeing what she does with a portrait is always inspiring. There's another photographer named Jerry Yulesman who does kind of it looks collaged, but it's all done in the dark room. It's traditional darkroom stuff. I come from a photography background, so for me, it's just the people who are taking a camera and then, giving you something else, than what you would be expecting with a photograph. So those are my inspirations, or just like people that get me excited about it.
You can find out more about his artwork at ShawnRayHarris.com.
Well, scholars, I hope you enjoyed that as much as I enjoyed being able to bring it to you. We'll see you next time, and make sure that you check out all these artists that are featured in here, and make sure that you let them know that Art 101 with Mr. Burgher sent you. You have a good day.
I'd like you to shut the hell up.